How's it going, my G's? Hope you're all doing well. And today I want to do a video which has nothing to do with ocarinas. Actually, I want to do a little mini tutorial today on Convolution Reverb and why I think it's super important, why I think it's super cool, why I love it, why I think it's great. I like it. So the difference about Convolution Reverb compared to just like a normal reverb plugin like Valhalla or something, you get to put your sound in a pre-recorded space. So while like a classic reverb plugin is great for doing its purpose and doing its job, with Convolution Reverb you can get like newer textures and newer like harmonics that will take your pre-existing sound, like your lead or your bass, in like a new direction. So it's like kind of leveling up the sound design on like your specific sound. Back in the day I used to use this plugin called Altiverb, and that was the first like reverb convolution plugin that I had. And there was this preset on there, this like bright hall or something, and every sound that I put through it just made it so much better. It put in these really smooth high-end kind of harmonics and made everything like brighter. And yeah, that was when I fell in love with Convolution Reverb. But these days I kind of just lost that like reverb plugin, and what I use now is that I used a bit of the Melda Production, the free one. But it's got a few really harsh sort of presets in there, so it's not like always gonna be super like smooth or nice to your sound, but sometimes it's really great. But the one I use mostly like right at this moment is like the Convolver from Kilohertz, just because I'm kind of like getting used to the new sounds on it, and I think it's got some cool like smooth like kind of presets in there, so we're gonna like use that for this tutorial. But essentially, like what we're doing with Convolution Reverb is we're using a pre-recorded space. And how they would like make this, for example, if you wanted to make your own, you could go to like a big like concert or a famous one and bring a balloon and pop it and record the sound of the kind of ambience of that kind of balloon being popped, chop off that small little transient in the beginning, and hey presto, you've got the sound of the room, like with all of its frequencies, because it was a loud kind of bang. So that's kind of how they made like convolution like samples, and like you can put your own samples into a lot of these plugins, so you're basically running your sound through a sample that's the recording of a different space. Anyway, let's get into some practical advice and have a little go at putting some convolution on two sounds. One, in a smooth way to just kind of blend it in, and secondly, to do like something a little bit more creative. Let's go. So I've got a simple little drum beat here that's kind of following on from the video I did about the cymbal production. The sort of hi-hat tips I did on the last video. And yeah, I've got two sounds here, and this first one is a sort of foghorn. And both the sounds I'm using are just two presets I picked from my Phase Plant preset pack, the Power Pack, which has definitely got some wicked sounds in. I would highly recommend it if you have Phase Plant. But anyway, this tutorial is not Phase Plant specific, because we're going to be using the kind of audio anyway. So I've got a kind of foghorn that I've made here. It's got like a small reverb tail on it, but what I want to do is I want to add a convolution now to put this into an even larger space. And the idea with using a convolution, like I kind of mentioned before, is you get to find a specific room or recorded space that will blend with yours the best, and take it in a new direction, give it some new harmonics that kind of take it to the next level. So what I could do is I could sort of mix it in here 50%, and we can have a little listen to the sort of half and half balance of the dry signal and the convolution reverb. That's quite nice. Don't hear that one so much. This one I really like, and what it does is it like really amplifies that bass, and it's almost a bit much, but we can use it in a creative way. When we EQ it, we can blend it in quite smoothly. So what I'm going to do, the most practical and simple way, is to whack that on 100% mix, and I'm going to bounce out the audio from the convolution sample. So this is just the reverb on its own here. And I'll have to extend the audio out here. Yeah, so I've got that on there, and that's really nice. So I'm going to go back to the original, take that plugin off, and now we're going to blend it in together. So first things first, I'm going to EQ it And then after that, I'm going to turn it down. I'm going to EQ it first so I can hear exactly where the sweet spot should be. Because obviously the low end is really important. You don't want to sort of have too much low end of reverb, you know? So let's find a sweet spot in the mid-range. That's pretty nice around there. And now let's just take it down a bit. You can see it's already peaking a lot because where I've messed with the EQ, you know, just by EQing it, it's changed the whole kind of harmonics of the sound and turned things up around here. So let's take that down in volume. And now let's hear it without. You know, you kind of miss that extra depth and width that we added in with the convolution if we leave it off, you know. And it's got a long tail, but I don't have to have that on there. I can just sort of shorten that. And that's the great thing about having it in audio already as well. You know, so I can choose if I want a long tail or if I want to just sort of smooth it off there. But yeah, let's play that with our drums and see if we like it. Yeah, much better than... You know, it's nowhere near as 3D as it is now, you know. So yeah, really, really nice. That's the first way of using the Convolution Reverb, just to kind of add like a normal, essentially like a normal reverb layer to the sound, but picking out one that really fits with it the best. Just a small interlude. I'd just like to take a really quick moment to say thank you to all of my Patreon supporters who make all of this content creation and things possible, because it gives me the extra time that I need to, you know, produce and record and edit and do all these tutorials. And yeah, so thanks to you guys. And also, any of you guys ever want to get one of these really nice artifact t-shirts with a red embroidered logo, very high quality, they are available on my website. It's another way you can support the channel for fun, which doesn't involve joining Patreon or, you know, things like that. So just wanted to do a little plug for that. Let's get back into the video. So the next thing that I want to do is take a sound which already is quite sort of 3D and already has quite a lot going on. This is another bass from my sample pack, preset pack, but this is a bit more of a neurofunk one here called the Lucky 7 bass. And yeah, it's got quite a lot more depth on it and a lot of movement, so it doesn't really need like a reverb on it. But this time we're going to use the Convolution Reverb to create some lot of sort of creative effects in the sound. And it's going to be quite simple. So let's find something that has a little bit of a bit more of a high-end character as well this time. So if I mix this back down again. That one's quite nice. Ugly bright hole, no one wants that. Yeah, I really like this one because it's got this element of crunchiness it brings out in the high end. So if I just sort of play with the mix here, you know, it has, yeah, some really nice harmonics there. So same what we did before, I'm going to bounce out a version of that reverb at 100%, and then I'm going to take it off from the original here. And in this case, what I want to do to be a bit more creative, I want to have this first MIDI bass in audio. So I'm just going to bounce this out. So we've got the dry and the wet all as audio. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to simply chop and change between the reverb section and the kind of dry section to add like an extra little bit of groove. Because if you listen to this bass on its own, kind of with the drums here, it's quite full on like the whole time. You don't get much rest from it. So let's do some sort of chops like this. For example, I'll chop these parts out, and then maybe I'll chop this part out here, for example. And then what we'll do is I'll just delete them sort of like this. And let's have a listen to that. So now you've got this sort of chopping between the dry version and the reverbed version. And because that bass was already, you know, already quite sustained and had a lot going on, so I'm sort of taking a bit away, because every time we get to that, you know, that convolution reverb layer, you know, it's almost like I'm taking out some of the power from the mono, for example, but it's creating this extra dynamic, yeah, kind of effect. So if I play that with the drums, for example. And we could try doing it a little bit more subtly. So let's maybe make these a bit shorter. If I bring this back, something like this. And maybe I'll do the same thing sort of around here. Let's see how that works. Yeah, and maybe we'll do this guy over here as well. I think this one could be also on my little reverb version here. So let's do that, and then just make sure again that everything's sort of faded in and out, because they you know, when you chop the audio file, you've got those clicks always, you know. And I think that one wasn't quite sounding that nice, but what I could do is I could just copy that part over. You know, it doesn't have to be exactly the same section always. You can change them around, can't you? Yeah, and maybe I'll add another little one here at the end. So that's got a nice funky groove now. And, you know, essentially what I've done is just used little parts of the audio and restructured them to create a sort of newer and more interesting groove now. And we've actually taken away some of the power from the main bass by, you know, prioritizing those little reverb parts on their own and having a little gap from the main one. So that's a way you could use the convolution in a more creative compositional way. So yeah, those are the kind of two cool things you can do with Convolution Reverb. And normal reverb plugins I will definitely use as well, but something that I find normal reverbs, like for example in Logic the Chrome Reverb or Valhalla reverbs, or all these kind of classic algorithmic ones, they are better doing a sort of more utility job, you know, a smoother job. If you've got some hi-hats, you want to just make them a bit softer and put them in the background, then a little bit of a normal kind of reverb would be really good for that, for example. But here I'm dealing with like my lead character kind of sounds, you know, like my main bass and my kind of leads and things like that. So in this case, it can pay a reward to spend a bit of time finding a good convolution sound that fits with it, to take it to that next level and give it that extra interest. And yeah, you'll find if you start doing this a bit more, you'll be able to get extra textures into your otherwise potentially blander sounds. And yeah, it's a way that you can make simpler sounds sound a little bit more exciting, and you can keep, you know, your grooves and arrangements still very, you know, like minimal, but you can add like an edge to them which wasn't there before. So that's very exciting. Anyway, I hope that's helped some of you guys out today. Much love. Peace out. Don't do anything I wouldn't. Ciao for now. Ciao Bella. Arrivederci. And yeah, just bye.